Natural woman. Yes, you make me feel like a natural woman. On that note, you're welcome to Soul Sisters on Smooth 98.1, where we love music and we love life. And you know that every Wednesday from 11 to 11:50, what we're doing here is basically discussing different things and everything that revolves around the woman. My name is Oluwaseun, and if this is your first time, you are definitely welcome. We have a seat for everyone. Though we call the show Soul Sisters, but you can be assured that we also have a seat for the brothers because the sisters do not exist in isolation. So the sisters are welcome, the front seat is for them, and then the back seat is for the brothers. And for the first time, I'm going live on Instagram just to talk about this and to also extend the reach so that everybody gets to be a part of the conversation, which we title the 30s, body changes to expect in your 30s. Of course, it's about the ladies so that the men also can understand and have a better idea of what happens in the body of a woman in her 30s. And I do have a medical doctor to join me. She's one that educates on many aspects, including your reproductive health, your sexual wellness. And I think the last time she was here, we were talking about body changes that happen in pregnancy. And it was such a delightful conversation. I thought we need to have you back. So joining me on Zoom in a different time zone. I think it's 3 a.m. where she is. And I'm just grateful for things like this, where somebody all the way in another part of the world decides to be on the show just to educate. Thank you, Dr. Olufemi Idowu, also known as Check with Dr. O. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you. I mean, I can have you all the time, but I'm worried about having to wake up at 3 a.m. to look this gorgeous just to be on the show. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm actually used to it, to be honest, because I do a lot of stuff in Nigeria, so I have to work with the time zone in Nigeria. So it's something
Okay.
I'm used to already.
Well, thank you for indulging us. Okay, then we can actually join us on YouTube. YouTube is youtube.com/smooth 91 FM Lagos. Again, youtube.com/smooth 91 FM Lagos. And like I mentioned, I'm also live on my IG page. This is a part of New Year resolution to become more active on social media. Okay, so before we even get into the conversation of the changes that happen in your 30s, is it really a big deal, the number 30, or is it a social construct that once you clock 30, a lot of things change? Or is it just what comes with the society saying the big 30, you have to be more responsible, you have to be more mature, you have to be more, I don't know. So is there any fuss? What's the fuss really about age 30, especially for a woman?
You know what? I'll be honest, I don't think there's any force, especially because I've been 30 myself and I've crossed 30, and I'm not sure I realized when I crossed 30, like, okay, there was no big difference. I know probably when I was much younger, I used to look at people that were 30 as in, oh, you guys are old. But then I got to 30, I didn't feel any different, right? So I think it's overrated, right? Overrated. And because we're women, there's more pressure. And also, they normally tag us with numbers. Oh, especially if you're 30, you're not married. Oh, you're 30, you're not married. Oh, you're 30, you don't have kids. They try to make it a big deal, but to be honest, it's not. It's not.
Mhm.
Age is just a number, like they say, and I think I agree with that.
Okay. You say age is just a number, but then what does biology say? What happens in your body? Because there are a number of things that I have seen online
Yeah.
from increased sexual drive, which we will definitely get to that later on. And I'm reading a number of comments on sites like Quora and different sites, and I'm reading some ordeals of women, and I'm thinking, is this really true? So what are those changes that happen in your body when you cross 30?
Okay. So the truth is, when you reach 30 or when you cross 30, uh, there are a few changes that start to take place. But to be honest, a lot of these changes are not significant, right? Some people, if you're not observant, you may not even notice them until your late 30s or till you get to your 40s. That's when most of these changes become more apparent. But when you just clock 30, honestly, a lot of them you wouldn't notice. But as you go through the 30 journey, few of them might start to become apparent. But from the 40s, most women will start to notice a lot of those changes. But the reality is most of those changes start in your 30s, but they don't become very noticeable till you get to your 40s.
Okay, so what we're going to do is I will take some of those things that I have been able to pull together from opinion polls and different people's experience, and then I start to ask you one after the other if you think it is really applicable or not. So we're going to breathe, and when we come back, we'll get into this. If you're joining us for the first time, you're welcome to Soul Sisters on Smooth 98.1, where we love music and we love life and we love the woman. We're concerned about her health and wellness. And every Wednesday from 11 till 11:50 on Smooth 98.1, we have the show called Soul Sisters. And today we're talking about the 30s, the changes that happen and occur in the woman's body. Stay with us because we'll be right back. Okay, so just a quick ad break and we'll be back.
Sounds good.
To cook correct food, they always give me joy. That's why anytime when they cook like this, I dey always sitting and with no queue.
Hello, hi. Thank you for joining my IG live. I can't believe I'm saying that. That feels so weird.
Always enjoy my
Year 2024. Gotta be more active, yeah. So in case you're joining for the first time, I'm sure you can see the title where we're talking about the 30s, the changes that happen in a woman's body. And if you have any question, anything to chip in, you're always welcome to drop it in the comment section. Okay.
Love life. Love life. Love 98.1.
That's us. We are Smooth 98.1. We love music and we love life and we love everything that is educative, informing, and entertaining as well. Today on Soul Sisters, we are discussing the 30s, the changes that occur and happen in a woman's body after she clocks age 30. And part of the things that I have seen, I think that one applies to almost 40, 50. But then does it really start at 30? And that is the issue of slowed metabolism.
Actually, this is the most common one, and it's actually one that I was going to talk about because
Mm.
the first thing most women notice when they clock 30 or when they cross that age 30 is slowed metabolism. So what happens is, how do they notice this? They start to gain weight. And that's when they realize that, oh, before now I could eat anything and I probably wouldn't gain weight or I'll lose weight easily. But right now it's so difficult to continue to eat what I was eating before, do the things I was doing before, and not gain weight, right? I personally noticed this a bit. Maybe it wasn't apparent in my physical appearance, but I check my weight on the scale. I'm like, where this extra 3 kg come from? It's like it just happened all of a sudden, and it's not like I was eating more or anything, right? So what happens is your metabolism slows down. This means that your body is not breaking down as much calories as you used to. Normally, when you eat food, it's measured in calories, right? So what your body does is to break down these calories, right? Burn the calories. Some of them are stored up as fat, right? But when your metabolism slows down, your body is not digesting food as fast as you used to. These calories are not being burnt as fast, right? So you have to do extra work. Either you eat a little less because your body is not digesting it as fast, or you do a little more exercise or physical activity to burn those calories, to aid your body in burning those calories. But for sure, your metabolism is going to slow down, and this is due to change in hormones that happen after you cross 30.
You see that hormones, that is
Yeah.
where I am going. Because why does it always have to be the hormones? So part of the things I'm going to ask you is the changes in periods. For instance, there are some ladies who didn't feel or know anything that was called PMS or dysmenorrhea before 30, and all of a sudden they get to feel the pain. There are some that it was easy, like a walk in the park for them, and now they're starting to feel so cranky, so irritable. What exactly goes on with the hormones?
Yeah, so basically, when you cross 30, the hormonal balance is changing, right? You know, the female hormones, estrogen, right? And progesterone, they're the ones that control most of the activities in the female body that make us different from men, right? But as you grow older, this changes. Your estrogen begins to decline slowly, right? As you grow older. And this causes some changes in the body. Number one, you start to notice a change in the pattern of your periods, right? So for some people, it might be things as simple as my periods used to be lighter before, now they are heavier. For others, it could be the opposite. I used to have heavier periods, but now they are lighter. Or it could be the length of their cycle. You notice that your cycle is a little longer than it used to be, or slightly shorter than it used to be. But for most women, they definitely notice that change in the pattern of their periods. And for some, their periods even become irregular. So they are not coming as often as they used to. They begin to skip periods and all that. Like I said, it's these changes in the hormonal balance that are leading to these symptoms or these experiences that women are facing, even the dysmenorrhea and all that you said they were not facing before. Though for some women, yeah, okay, one thing I forgot to mention is with these experiences, there's no one size fits all. Like everything in medicine, everybody's experience is different. What you experience for cross 30 will be different from what I'm going to experience, right? Different women have different experiences, right? So just because somebody is experiencing this in their 30s doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. Some women go through their 30s and, like I said, never notice any of these changes until later down the line when they become 40 and above, right? So it's not everyone will notice or experience these changes, but a lot of women do.
What about the women who report being curvier in their 30s? Is this as a result of the weight gain? And then there is the part where there is more abdominal fats.
Yeah, so it's actually because of the weight gain, right? Again, because your metabolism has slowed, you tend to gain more weight, right? Easily, without any effort. You eat less and you're gaining weight. So obviously, if you gain weight, you're becoming curvier. And unfortunately, you cannot choose where the fat settles in your body. You know, if you could choose where you gain weight, that would have been perfect. I want to gain weight, but let it only be in my bum or in my boobs. Oh, that would be great. But no, the fat chooses to go and settle on your abdomen. And then you have to start using things like waist trainers to, really look good and all that. So the weight gain, fat can choose to settle anywhere, right? And one of those places that it settles sometimes in women can be the abdomen. Though abdominal fat is more common in men, for women, the weight tends to settle more in the hip area, right? But it can also settle in the abdominal area. And for me, that's unwanted weight gain for most women. They don't mind gaining a little weight in the hips, but you see that abdomen is the no-go area. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
they don't get to choose.
So what about the muscles? Still on that weight and what the lady looks like. What about the muscles? Do you have changes in the muscle as well?
Yes. So your muscle mass starts to decline a bit after you turn 30. There's a slow decline in the muscle mass, right? But like I said, some people may not notice this immediately, right? So that decline in the muscle mass, because your muscle is being your body is not building your muscles anymore. So everything is now being replaced by body fats. So you're building less muscle mass. Instead, you're accumulating more body fats. That's what really happens at this stage.
All right, so before I move on to another one, so let's quickly address some of the things that you've mentioned. Number one is the hormonal changes, and number two is the muscle mass. So the hormonal changes, how do you stabilize it? How do you make sure that you are not yo-yoing between the hormones? Do you need to eat something different? Do you need to?
With hormonal changes, right? To be honest, when it comes to diet and all that, I can't say for sure that there's any recommended diet for regulating the hormones, right? As much as that's not my area of expertise, probably a dietitian will speak better to that. But as far as I know, there's no recommended medical diet that can help you control your hormones. Now, with hormones, it really depends on the symptoms you're experiencing. If it's minor symptoms like changes in the pattern of your period or anything like that, It's not too much of a big deal. There's no doctor that will say, oh, let me start recommending prescription drugs or anything, because there are drugs you can take to balance up your hormones. But where we would be prescribing hormones is when you are experiencing significant symptoms, right? For example, your periods are irregular and you're still trying to conceive. That would be consent for us, and we want to balance up these hormones. Or like people that are menopausal, experiencing hot flushes, vaginal dryness, and all that. We also want to give them hormones to help to manage these symptoms. But outside of any significant symptoms, there's really no need to take any drug treatment for it. And as far as I know, there's no recommended diet that can help to control the hormones.
So you just try to keep eating healthy and hope that everything will.
Healthy, balanced diet, physical activity or exercise helps.
Hmm. What about the kind of exercises you need to do, especially as you're losing muscle mass?
So bodybuilding helps to build up the muscle mass if you are concerned about that, right? So you are doing weightlifting, all this pushing and all that in the gym, they help to build up the muscle mass, push-ups, press-ups, and all that. But if you are concerned about losing weight, that's losing body fat, then you want to go more for cardio exercises. So jogging, running, using the treadmill, using the bicycle in the gym, riding the bicycle. That will help you to burn more body fat.
Hmm. Thank you. More clarity, definitely. So let's talk about the heart. What are the possible changes that occur to a person's cardiovascular health when they cross 30?
So to be honest, the changes in the heart will really vary, right? Depending on the person's health-seeking behavior, right? So for some, for example, if you're someone that has not been paying attention to the kind of food you eat, maybe like you consume a lot of cholesterol and all, and your cholesterol is high, right? You may be prone to coronary heart diseases. So you may find yourself at higher risk of things like heart attack, right? Some people
Mm,
are hypertensive, so they may notice over time that their heart has become enlarged. That's because of the effort the heart is taking to push blood around the body over time. It's like your heart muscles are gymming. Your heart is also a muscle, right? It has muscles. So when it putting more effort to push blood around the body, it also becomes bigger. So some people may notice like a slight enlargement in their heart, which is something that happens over time, right?
mm,
There are some of changes that you might notice, but like I said, it's not everybody that will experience this, right? For some people, their circulatory system is still fine, everything is still going on as it is. As long as you're living a healthy life, you are physically active. I don't really like to use exercise too much. Exercise is important, but most people, especially in Lagos, they never get the time to exercise. Life is so busy that you never find time to really exercise. But if you are physically active, you take the stairs, you take regular walks and all that, that can also count for you.
mm. When you were talking about the heart getting more worked up in pumping blood and all of that due to cholesterol, all I was just hearing is your 30s is not a time to eat all the offals, if you know what I mean. All the shaki, their
Yeah, all
body.
those fatty meat, all those
Please
meat that have
quit it,
saturated fat.
quit.
No, you should avoid it at that time. As you get older, you now have to start becoming more conscious of the kind of food you eat. Like I said, you can't eat anything and get away with it like you used to. And around this time is when all the things you are eating and getting away with, they start to tell on your body.
Mm,
Before, prior to your 30s, you are eating this thing, getting away with it, and your body is handling it, right? Now, your body has slow metabolism, coupled with the fact that the effects of all those your bad eating habits are now beginning to tell on you slowly. But they become more apparent, like I said, after you cross 40, for some even in their 50s and beyond.
Okay, we hear you. If you're joining us for the first time, you're listening to Soul Sisters, and we're discussing the 30s, the changes that happen and occur in a woman's body when she crosses the age 30. And WhatsApp line is very much open. WhatsApp is 0809 Again, the WhatsApp line is 0809 while the call line is 01448 9981. Muste, it's been a minute. I read from you. Thank you. I don't know if you got the message, but we thank you for the lovely gift you sent us during the Christmas. We absolutely enjoyed it. And good to have you back here, at least on Soul Sister. It's been a minute. So he has a question which I already talked a bit about. I think we will come to that later, but part of it you have already clarified. I'll take it again so that for the sake of Musti and every other person who's just joining, It said this popular question and myth about period pain. Can you clarify it? The myth that being a woman who experiences severe pain is due to lack of sexual activity. Some have said despite birthing, it came back. What is your take, Dr. O?
I think it's just a myth, right? Lack of sexual activity does not mean that you have more painful menstrual cramps. There's no correlation between the two,
Wait,
right?
wait, 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 wait. You need to increase your volume. Say it louder.
Yes, I actually need to increase my volume. That it's just a myth, right? Just because you abstain from sexual activity for a while does not mean that the price you pay for that is painful periods. No, I think somebody just made that up to sort of push women to be more sexually active. It's not true. There's no correlation between the two.
Advantage.
What do you say?
I said I want to take advantage.
Exactly. You have to take advantage of that, but it's absolutely not true.
Maybe one man's girlfriend kept saying no, and then he decided to come up with that.
So that's one
Okay.
thing. And you mentioned childbirth. Like, so what happens is, I know you said you want to talk about libido, so maybe we just talk about that.
Oh no,
When
after this breather.
after the okay.
Yes.
After the
All right. So we'll talk about the libido, and then we also talk about the hair. What happens in the hair? And there
okay.
was a very interesting part where I saw that when you cross 30s or 40s, your brain starts to shrink. What's that?
That's aging. That's for everybody, not just women.
It will make this thing sound so scary and gloomy. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to Soul Sisters on Smooth 98.1. I mean, when you say shrink, shrink sounds so like
So
now
it's
you are
what
getting you can't think straight again.
no, I think reading stuff online sort of makes things sound scarier than it is, right? Naturally, when you're growing older, a lot of things in the body start to um get smaller, right? Like in the muscles, we call it atrophy. Your muscle mass begins to decline, right? And
Mm.
you get smaller than usual. Even the shrink of the brain is not something that is significant, right? Something that is happening slowly. You may not notice it immediately. It's something that happens gradually. And for a lot of people, they don't even know because they're not experiencing any symptoms, right? But one thing I think that is very important to talk about, which maybe we should talk about after the break as well, is decline in fertility that happens in the 30s.
Oh, weird. There's no way we're going to finish this conversation without talking about that. The
Okay.
whole, I think that's part of the fuss about, oh, you're 30, you should have babies because the fertility is, yeah, or you freeze your eggs.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other option. Just a freezing egg is quite expensive, but it's an
It's,
option.
it's not for the average person, especially with inflation and whatnot. Don't worry, you get your chance to dance on the Casbah from 12 p.m. till 4 p.m. because that's where I'll be playing you the world music, African music, global music for a beautiful 4 hours. But for now, we are discussing something that has to do with the woman's health and her body, especially all the changes that happen when she crosses the age 30. And we thank you for being there. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being a part of the conversation. If you have been listening and you have a question, a comment, something to clarify, you can use the WhatsApp line, which is 0809 444 And the WhatsApp line again is 0809 444 while the call line is 01448 We're live on YouTube as well, youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. It means you can also use that option to participate and drop your questions or your comments. So before the breather, we said we were going to ask or talk a little bit about the libido and the sexual drive of a woman after she crosses 30. What say you, Dr. O?
Okay. So actually, a lot of studies have shown that women's libido or sexual drive peaks somewhere around 27 to 45 years of age. That's when they enjoy the highest desire to have sexual intercourse, right? So obviously, the 30s falls within this age brackets. However, you might meet some women, especially past their 30s or their 40s, and they tell you that they have a low libido, right? Some of them this usually they experience this after childbirth, right? So shortly after childbirth, especially if you are breastfeeding, right, you're going to experience a decreased libido. And it's due to a lot of factors. Number one, stress. Childbirth it can be a stressful process, taking care of a baby and all that, right? Number two, a lot of them don't get enough sleep because of the baby. And you agree with me that when you've not rested enough, the last thing on your mind is sexual intercourse. So in this case, their partners need to be more understanding, right? And again, hormonal changes that take place because you are having an increased prolactin. The same way the job of prolactin is to produce more milk, right? Which in turn suppresses the hormones that makes you have your period. So you see that some women, when they're breastfeeding, they don't have their periods, right? Their periods actually disappears for the whole time, right? Or some of them start to experience it much later. That same difference in hormonal balance actually reduces your libido. So it reduces your desire for sexual intercourse. But this is only for maybe a few months after childbirth, or for some women, the duration of the period they are breastfeeding. When you're done breastfeeding, or a few months after childbirth, your libido is back for most women. So they go back to that period where they said in that age range, that's when their sexual drive peaks, right? So you begin to have the desire for sexual intercourse again. And then your partner is even wondering that, what's wrong with you? You were not like this before. Where is all this all coming from? Another time in the cycle where most women or a lot of women have experienced that they actually have an increased sexual drive is during their ovulation. And I say, is your body conspiring against you to get you pregnant? Because during your ovulation, right? So if your sexual desire increases at that time, it's just your body just syncing with your hormones to make sure that, okay, you have intercourse at that time so that you can get pregnant. So if you feel an increased sex drive during your ovulation, you should not feel weird about it. It's just normal.
Okay, so I'd like to just clarify a teeny bit of that. So
Mhm.
you meant the examples you used, a woman who's breastfeeding, a woman who ovulating, all of that. Is there the chance that this might not happen to a woman who is not sexually active before, or
You
either
mean the
sexually
ovulation
active or
part?
not? No, the increased sexual drive.
So whether or not you are sexually active, the hormones are there. So you would have that urge, right? So even if you're not sexually active, that's when the temptation is highest to want to do something, right? Now it's up to you to resist the urge, but the urge will definitely be there whether or not you're sexually active.
Ah, I see. All right, then. Thank you for clarifying. Now, moving over to what leads to babies or not, let's talk about the fertility rates in your 30s.
So, unfortunately, fertility begins to decline over time. So with age, as you are aging, whether you are 30, from the moment you are born, as you're getting older, your fertility is declining, right? But this decline becomes strongest when you cross 35 years of age. So the decline becomes more steep, right? And that's why a lot of women these days, especially those above 35, they are finding that they're not able to conceive easily. And why is this? Before you cross 35, when you are born, women are born with a fixed number of eggs in their ovaries. Every month, you are releasing an egg. And when you don't get pregnant, that egg has wasted. It has gone away with the period blood. Another month is being released, it goes away. Now, by the time you have reached 35, you have depleted almost up to half of your egg stores, right? So it means you have only few eggs left. So the egg count, the quantity you have is reduced. Not only that, at that age, because of the hormonal changes, the quality of eggs are not as good as before you cross 35. So you have more increase or more chances of having chromosomally abnormal eggs during that period than before you turn 35. That's why you see that above 35, there's higher chance of having a miscarriage or higher chance of having a child that may be abnormal, right? For example, maybe Down syndrome that has chromosomal abnormalities, there's higher chance of that. So normally experts will say we need to educate people that they need to be aware of this so that they either choose to have their children on time if it's within their control, or freeze their eggs if they don't want to have children until maybe later in their late 30s or their 40s, because once you cross that 35, it's not as easy to get pregnant, like I said, because of the quantity that is reduced. And even when you get pregnant, there's concern about the quality. But at the same time, this is all on a scale of probability. There are still people well over 35 that conceive and have normal children with no issues. It's just that your chances of not being able to conceive or your chances of not having a normal child or chances of having a miscarriage are higher after this age, right? Chances are higher does not mean you fall into that bracket, does not mean it will definitely happen to you, right? If I say something has a 80% chance of happening, it means there's a 20% chance it might not happen. You just might fall into that 20%. So I don't think everybody should go into panic mode or something like, oh, I'm 35, I've not had kids or anything, but it's just something you should be aware of so that if you have control over it, then you do something about it. If not, then just be hopeful that you don't fall into that bracket where that happens.
The whole topic of egg freezing, each time it comes up, I go over it and over it because again, there are a lot of things that are not planned. So a woman already has drafted the script of her life. She wants to get married at the age of 20 something. It does not happen until say 20 or 30, and then she's trying to have a baby and it's not coming also. So again, at what point should she think, okay, maybe it's time for me to freeze my eggs? Is it immediately when she crosses 30 or when she's nearing 35, or it's dependent on individual's factor?
No, so the recommendation is freeze your eggs before you turn 35. The best time to freeze it is in your 20s, right? That's when the egg count is highest. That's when the quality of the eggs are the best. So before you turn 34, or by the time you turn 34, is the best time to freeze it, right? After 35, then we have concerns, but preferably in your 20s, late 20s, early 20s, if you can afford it, because freezing egg is not cheap.
It's
It's
not.
not cheap, yeah. So if it's something you can afford, and if you cannot afford it, I still say don't panic, right? Just, I mean, I know many women that have had children above 30, even in their 40s, and children are fine, and they didn't even have a problem conceiving. So this thing is just probability. Yes, there's a higher chance that you will not, but there's also a chance that you will. So just because
Thank you. Now that we've addressed the sexual drive as well as the fertility rates, let's talk about the hair and the skin. The skin, especially because I know a woman who didn't have anything called acne or pimples, and all of a sudden it starts to pop out. What happens with the skin?
still the changes in the hormonal balance. Changes in hormonal balance can actually lead to acne. It's one of the things that could cause acne, right? So at that age, hormones change, and someone that had no pimples, even as a teenager, can start to have pimples towards the 30s, the 40s, and all that. That's also not unusual. Another thing that some women notice, so this is more common in women of non-African descent, is they notice that they may start to get some little wrinkles or sagging of their skin, right? This is because of decreased collagen in the skin. There's something called collagen that gives the skin its elasticity, right? And that's why you see them using a lot of anti-aging creams all the time, which we really don't have to use here because one, sunlight is part of what contributes to aging of the skin, but we have melanin pigment that protects our skin from that exposure to sunlight. God has already given us this because he knows we get more sun than they do anyway, right? So that's one thing that some may notice, but for us of African descent, we usually don't notice that until much later in 40s or the 50s. But that's another change that some women might notice in skin. So because you are getting older, one thing you can do for yourself is start to take more vitamin C, right? Vitamin C is very good for the skin and it helps collagen as well. So it will help to maintain the elasticity of your skin and your skin remains looking beautiful and fresh. So vitamin C and a balanced diet will help that.
Thank you. Thank you for touching on that aspect of taking vitamin C and other supplements, because I also want you to address that of folic acid. So it is said that once you clock reproductive age, you should start to take folic acid. Can you shed more light?
Yeah, so folic acid is good because your baby needs folic acid, especially in the first trimester for their neural development. So the development of their nervous system, that's the brain and the spinal cord. And our body doesn't usually have enough stores of folic acid. So we need this supplement. So it's advised that if you plan to have kids, start taking folic acid upfront so that you're building the stores of folic acid in your body. Now, I need to correct this misconception where women think that taking folic acid will help them to conceive faster or help them conceive. No, folic acid does not in any way help you to conceive faster or help you conceive. What it's doing is building up your stores for the baby that is coming, because the baby that is coming needs it. So you're not taking folic acid to help you conceive, but you're taking folic acid so that when you conceive, your baby has enough folic acid that can help in the development of their nervous system. Because women that have a lack of folic acid or don't have enough folic acid tend to give birth to children with nervous system problems. So some of them can give birth to a child that has anencephaly or all these problems with some of them. There's something that we call spinal bifida. That's something that is also common that we see in women that didn't take enough folic acid. So the importance of folic acid cannot be overemphasized, but it is for the good of your baby, not so you get pregnant faster. That's just correct.
So I always like to be crystal clear so that somebody who probably is just tuning in gets a clearer understanding, especially on folic acid. Again, folic acid does not help you conceive faster.
Yeah.
It only helps your baby. It builds up your own reservoir. Now, I will leave you with this question so that when we come back, we'll further clear it up. Is it that women in their 30s are more prone to anemia or not? I want you to think about that. And after this breather, you'll help us answer that. And then we'll take more questions and feedback on WhatsApp. The line is 0809-444-0981. Again, 0809-444-0981. While the call line is 01-448-9981. You're listening to Soul Sisters on Smooth 98.1. We'll be right back.
Listening to Smooth 98.1. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you for joining. Hello, sir. Thank you for your message.
Taking us on a journey, and when you add plenty of vegetables like a fork, and season with the rich taste of non-seasoning.
So after that, we pretty much also talk about other things. I think we've not mentioned the hair part. Some experience breakage. I want to assume it's again linked to the hormones.
Yeah.
Those things. Okay, we are back. It's a short break.
My name is Gloria. I'm a young.
Nobody does it better.
You're listening to Smooth 98.1, where we love music and we love life, and we are educating you on what happens in your body, especially as touching the changes in your 30s for the sister, because the show is called Soul Sisters, and every Wednesday from 11 till 11:50, what we do is educate and also discuss different issues that revolve around the woman. So today the topic is the 30s, the changes that happen in the body, and I'm joined by Dr. Olufemi Idowu, which is joining me via Zoom. And we've been having that conversation for about 41 minutes. You can join us on YouTube as well, or you can share this link and the stream with any of your sisters, your mothers, your wives, girlfriends, nieces, anyone really that is the female gender, and you can let them be a part of it. If you have any question that you'd like to ask to clarify one thing or the other, please send it to WhatsApp 0809-444-0981 and include your name and location. Now, if you'd like to call, the number to dial is 01-448-9981. So before I go back to that question about the possibility of anemia in the 30s, I'll take this one from Musti on WhatsApp, who says, thank you, Oluwaseun. All right. And then he said, could this be a reason our people of yesterday got married early before the change in today's society? I'm just reminiscing on my grandmas who got married early. Is the body able to handle all these stressors before 30? For a woman past 30, does mating with a younger man affect the kind of child she will have? That's an interesting question. Does mating with a young man affect the kind of child she will have? I'm assuming that younger men have more sperm quality, or does mating with her age mate or older increase chances of birth defect? Lastly, please clarify. I heard y'all say years ago, but it seems pop culture is more popular than science and facts. What will you say to those online doctors advising our women and confusing them? Please give one advice each to young women and older women to correct popular misconception online. So let's start. Let's take it one after the other.
One by one. So the one about when having intercourse with a younger man change the quality of the child she gives birth to. So for you to have a child, right, the male gamete, so that's the male sex cell, and the female sex cell fuse together to form the embryo that becomes a child. Now, sperm quality is good, but egg quality is not great. You could still have those chromosomal abnormalities even though you have good sperm, right? So it's just like good egg and bad egg when you're making egg. If you have great egg and then you break the next egg and it's bad egg and you mix it together, everything is bad, right? So you have to have good quality egg and good quality sperm to have a good quality baby. So mating with a younger man does not erase this, right? What was the other question?
Talking about getting married early, how the body is able to handle all the stressors before 30.
Yes, so you will notice that back in the days, the rate of infertility was not as high because women got married at a much earlier age. So they had good quality eggs, the egg count was fine, right? They were able to give birth easily. You see them giving birth to 4, 5 children, poo, 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 like it was nothing. But these days, because women are getting married at a later age, you see that some people get married 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, they've not had kids. It's because you're getting married at a later age when your egg count is lower and the quality of your eggs are potentially not as good as they were before, right? And can the body handle the stressors of this before 30? Yes, that's even the best time to give birth. Your body snaps back better before 30 years old, right? But that doesn't mean that after 30 you can't give birth at all. You can. It's just that somebody that is giving birth in their 20s will probably not go through as much stress as you that is giving birth after your 30s or in your 40s, right? In fact, by the time they cross 40 or around 45, we start telling them high risk pregnancy, right? Because there are more chances of complications in their pregnancy or their birth process. So we need to keep a closer eye on them. So the younger you are, the better for you. Of course, I don't mean below 18. Below 18,
Yeah.
we have no business giving birth, right? Because especially for the younger ones, then you have risk of vaginal fistula and all that, because then your body can't handle it. But once you're above 18, especially in your early 20s, your late 20s, that's the best time to give birth.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you want to give advice, but he says, what will you say to those online doctors advising our women and confusing them about, I think, getting married later or earlier? I'm not quite sure. We said he should please give one advice each to young women and older women to correct popular misconception online. So maybe the things you've discovered as a result of
To be honest, right? No doctor can tell you when to get married now. Okay, doctor said go and get married tomorrow. Are they giving you a husband, right? So I don't think any online doctor is there telling people, oh, get married early or get married late, right? Our job is just to inform you about what your chances are. Chances of you getting pregnant before 35 are higher than after 35. You make the choice. And like I said, sometimes women have no control over this. Okay, even if I desire to get married before 35 and I don't have a husband, what do I do? Will you kill yourself? No. Right? So just remain positive and know that, okay, yes, so if they say 60% chance of not getting pregnant or not getting pregnant on time, there's 40% chance, be positive that you'll be part of that 40%. And even if you're not, there are other options, right? There's assisted reproduction now. There's IVF, there's artificial insemination. There's so many options. So for me, I wouldn't worry too much about it, right? I don't worry over what I can't control. When I get to
it.
that, I'll cross it.
Thank you for your take. And on the final notes, I said I was going to ask you about anemia and the possibility of the age becoming a risk factor. Is there any truth to that?
Not necessarily. Of course, by the time you are 35, I mean above 30, you've had more periods and everything. And if those changes in your period, like heavier periods, for example, if you start to experience things like heavier periods, then you are more prone to anemia. But this is more on a case by case basis. That you are 30, therefore you start having more anemia. Is not necessarily true. No, it depends
Okay.
on the individual. Some people, yes, find that they have more anemia at that time, maybe because their periods are heavier, because they're not eating a well-balanced diet. And at that age too, yeah, avoiding some of the things that like red meat. Red meat is good, a good source of iron. And at that age, you're avoiding it because it also has its downsides, right? Uh, to prevent any of these things, like if you notice you're having anemia or if your doctor is saying you have anemia, just eat a lot of leafy vegetables. So like spinach, ugu, is it lettuce or whatever? Any green vegetable, anything that looks like leaf is really, really good for building up your iron levels, right? So again, a lot of changes happened as you cross 30, right? But some of these changes are not significant in the sense that they are happening in your body, but you may not even notice them until much later. Now, this is not to scare anybody, right? You can turn 30, even 30 to your 40, and you may not notice any of these changes, right? But this is just to create awareness for some of the women that may experience these changes so they'll know that they are not abnormal. It's part of the aging process. Yes, we don't like to hear that we are growing older, but so yes, we are getting older. Every time you clock +1, you are a year older, and your body will tell you that you're a year older, right? So that's just it, to create awareness, but not to scare anybody.
I would have started a conversation of the 30 plus knees, but we don't have time for that. But is there any quick thing you want to say to that?
About what?
30 plus knees. I'm sure you see that buzzword.
Okay, like people starting to experience pain in the knee, stiffness and all. So that one can also be attributed to the weight gain that you experience at this age, right? Because the knees are the weight-bearing joints of the body, right? So when you gain weight, you're putting more pressure on your knees, right? So that's when some women start to experience pain in the knee joint, pain when they are walking, but this is more common in older women, menopausal women and all that. It could happen in your 30s, but it's not as common. So don't feel like, oh, when I get to 30, I'm going to become an old man. No, these things, it's individual basis. Some will experience it, some will not, right? Like I'm well over 30 and I've not experienced half of these things we've talked about. Maybe one or two, but that's really it. So I don't think anybody should really be scared, just to create awareness. So if you experience it, you know that it's not abnormal. And if there's something you need to do about it, you do something about it. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. I don't think there would have been a better final word than you just realize that yes, there are those normal biological and changes that happen in your body, but ultimately not everybody will go through it. So don't be so scared and don't feel like an end has come to the world. Because the way, you see some people dreading 30, the big 30. Now I'm crossed 30. What happens? And it's like the early onset of midlife crisis. It's just 30. It's just a number. You'll be fine. And when I was reading up on it, I realized that 30 actually seems to mark the beginning of anxiety and depression in some women. That's just sad. So please, dear woman, take it easy on yourself. 30 is just a number. Yes, it's like a chance for you to get better, more mature, more responsible, get into your dreams, but don't think that is the end of the world. Thank you, Dr. O. It was a pleasure with you as always.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
To catch up with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can find me on any of my social media pages. On Instagram is at check with Dr. O, with the full spelling of Doctor and O at the end. But on Twitter is at check with Dr. O, so it's DRO. And then I'm also on Facebook, check with Dr. O, YouTube, check with Dr. O. And I have a Telegram group, 2 Telegram groups. One Telegram group where I share my stories because I'm an author as well. I've written 6 novels that have medical lessons in them. And there's another one that is called the Moms Club. It's a special support group for moms. So whether you are trying to conceive, you're pregnant, you're a new mom, or you're a veteran mom, like I call them, that group is a support group for us to just gist, exchange ideas, and then I share medical information when necessary. So that's on Telegram. So feel free to join us.
Okay, thank you. Muste, I'm sorry. I wish I could take your Oliver Twist question, but unfortunately I can't. Maybe you would have to check with Dr. O on social media. He was asking about consistent back pain after birth, that if it has anything to do with the age of birth. Nah. In 2 seconds. Yes or
Yeah.
no?
So no, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Of course, yeah, when you give birth at an older age, you're more likely to experience those symptoms. But even younger people could experience back pain after childbirth, right? Depending on how the pregnancy went, how heavy the baby was, how they managed the pregnancy, and then the mode of childbirth, was it a traumatic one and all that. So some of them even, it might be as a result of spinal anesthesia, epidural that they received due to CS and all that, right? So different scenarios for different women, but no, not necessarily has anything to do with age. Yes, older women could be more predisposed to having that, but younger women can also have that back pain.
Thank you. I said 2 seconds. You used 45
Sorry.
seconds for him. Thank you always. And we will save this video for you on YouTube. If you are joining us for the first time, youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. You'll find it right there. And also we'll upload it for you on our status. Thank you for being a part of the show. 12 o'clock is the time I'll play you all kinds of African music on Casbah. That will be from 12 till 4. And if you love your African music, your Afrobeat, Afro jazz, all the contemporary, the high life, I think you should make it a date with us on Smooth 98.1. For now, I am out to take care of yourself. And well, bye. Thank you, Dr. O.
Thanks for having me. It's
It's a
always a
pleasure.
pleasure joining you.
Is that?
I said it's always a pleasure joining you.
Yeah, I look forward to I'm the Oliver tweets now. Definitely. I'll send a mail, let's say in February. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Just let me know ahead so I can like plan and stuff like that. Thanks.
I will.